On December 27, 2025, Thailand and Cambodia signed new ceasefire after weeks of fighting with over 100 deaths reported and more than half a million displaced. But here's the part most of the people miss. This is not just two neighbors arguing, it's a collision of maps, nationalism, military signaling, and external diplomacy. And it has ripple effects for association of Southeast Asian nations, China's influence, and even India's Act East strategy. So in next few minutes, I am going to answer few questions. Why did this flare up now? Why should you care even if you are far away? What happens next and what signs to watch? Hello everyone, hope you all are doing well. Welcome to Diplomat's Desk. I am your host Meet Shah. Let's begin with what changed in December 2025. This round escalated into something bigger than prior incidents. Reports described airstrikes, artillery exchanges, and fast moving cycle of retaliation. And importantly, this was not the first attempt to stop it. There was a July ceasefire pushed with regional and external pressure, but it broke down in early December, leading to renewed fighting. Now, if you are wondering how can a ceasefire collapse that quickly, hold that thought. The answer is in the geography plus disputed sites. Thailand and Cambodia shared a 817-kilometer border, and the tension spikes around specific contested pockets, often tied to older treaties, colonial era mapping, and symbolic sites. The most famous historical flashpoint is the Temple of Prihe Vihar dispute, which went to the International Court of Justice. The ICJ ruled in 1962 on sovereignty and later issued an interpretation judgment in 2013, clarifying aspects tied to the area and obligations. So, the border here is not just a line, it's a line tied to law, identity, and sovereignty, which means compromise becomes politically expensive. Now, fast forward to 2025. In June 2025, Cambodia said it filed a complaint with the ICJ over four disputed areas along the border areas known by different names in each country, which itself tells you how emotional the issue is. Separately, analysts in the region noted that a deadly skirmish in May 2025 reignited tensions and deepened distrust. So, by the time you reach December 2025, you have a legal process adding pressure, unresolved demarcation on the ground, and political incentives to appear strong. When leaders think the public expects toughness, even a small incident can spiral because backing down looks like surrender. By mid-December, the conflict had widened enough that Thailand took measures linked to fuel flows via Laos, worrying about diversion to Cambodia, an example of how quickly conflicts start affecting trade and logistics, not just troops. Then on December 27, the second ceasefire was announced as holding with commitments like no troop moves forward, monitoring by ASEAN, and conditions tied to detainee release after the truce holds. So, Reuters reported that China is expected to help mediate future talks while ASEAN monitors the truce. So, external actors are not side characters, they are the part of the mechanism now. Every border conflict has two stories. One side framed it as a defending sovereignty and responding to violations, the other framed it as a resisting incursion and protecting civilians. And once casualties and displacement mounts, even accurate information gets buried under emotion. That's why ceasefire documents often include language about avoiding misinformation and preventing further provocations. The conflict persists not because diplomacy does not exist, but because each side needs a narrative that survives domestic politics. Now let's talk about China because it matters in three layers. First, China as a mediator. Reuters reports that China is positioned to mediate future talks after this ceasefire. That's significant because it suggests Beijing wants to be seen as a regional stabilizer, not just as a power projecting influence. Second, China's defense relationships and perceptions. Cambodia's defense relationship with China is repeatedly in the spotlight, especially around infrastructures like the China funded upgrades at Cambodia's Ream naval base, which has drawn international attention and concerns about strategic access in the Gulf of Thailand. And in mid 2025, some reports claimed China was supplying weapons amid fighting claims China denied. Now, three, China and Thailand are not enemies either. Thailand also has deepening military contacts with China, including joint exercise, defense engagement reported by the regional outlets and analysts. China has incentives to keep the conflict from exploding, but also incentives to remain indispensable to both sides. The more you rely on someone to calm a crisis, the more leverage they gain in that region. Now, India. India is not a frontline player here, but it does have reasons to care. India's official brief on Thailand highlights how central Thailand is to India's regional strategy across ASEAN, East Asia Summit, BIMSTEC, and Mekong Ganga cooperation. Now, Thailand is a part of India's eastward connectivity and regional influence architecture. India and Cambodia have also been expanding defense engagements. India's government press release notes the first edition of SINBEX, a joint tabletop exercise held in India in December 2024. So India has relationships with both countries, which creates a diplomatic opening. India can support de-escalation norms without looking like it's choosing sides, because the conflict's core drivers are territorial claims, domestic politics, and local military posture. India's deepest and strongest role is like quiet diplomacy, support the ASEAN-led stability and ensuring the conflict does not disrupt broader regional connectivity. India matters as a stakeholder in regional stability, but it's not a primary broker here unless ASEAN and the parties invite it into a bigger role. Let's game this out like an analyst. Scenario 1: ceasefire holds, low level incidents continue. This looks like a formal truce but periodic accusations and small flare ups. Scenario B: ceasefire holds plus border mechanism restart. AP reported commitments including returning to border demarcation efforts and de-escalation measures. If those mechanisms restart with consistent monitoring, tensions can drop. Scenario C: ceasefire collapses again. We already saw a July ceasefire breakdown in early December. If either side believes the other is repositioning forces, or if a single high casualty incident occurs, retaliation cycles can restart. Scenario D: wider regional spillover. Not world war, but spillover can mean trade disruptions, refugee pressures, and criminal networks exploiting chaos. If you want to track whether peace is real, watch these signals. Verification plus monitoring. Are ASEAN monitors reporting stable lines, troop movement, reinforcements, or new hardware near hotspots? Civilian returns. Are displaced people actually going home safely? Border Commission activity, any restart of demarcation talks, China's diplomacy tempo, more meetings equals to more urgency. Now, let's take the question and answers generally audiences have. Is this about one temple or something bigger? It's bigger, multiple contested pockets, history, and border that still carries old mapping disputes. The pre-Vihar legal history shows how symbolic sites become a national issues. Second question: why did not Association of Southeast Asian Nations (ASEAN) stop it earlier? ASEAN often works by consensus and diplomacy. Here, ASEAN's role appears strongest in monitoring and supporting ceasefire mechanisms once both sides agree. Question 3 is China arming Cambodia right now? There were allegations earlier in 2025 and China denied supplying new weapons in that context. Separate from that, China's long-term defense ties and infrastructure supports are widely discussed. Question 4. Will India mediate? India is better positioned as a quiet stabilizer, supporting ASEAN, keeping ties with both sides and protecting regional connectivity priorities. Question 5. Does this affect tourists? It can, especially if clashes approaches major crossings and logistic routes, track official travel adversaries, and whether border crossings reopen smoothly. So yes, today's ceasefire matters, but the real story is whether the region can convert a pause in fighting into process monitoring, demarcation steps, and political off-ramps both sides can sell at home. Now, if you like this video and like this analysis, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching this one and see you in the next one.